Hi everybody, welcome back to the Security Analyst Training. So now we have completed 2 courses so far. This is course 3 and the title of the course is Penetration Testing Methodologies. I know you guys are excited to take this course. The title by itself is very intriguing too. So let's first go over the key topics that I'm going to cover in this course. I've briefly divided this course into 4 main classes and subdivided those classes into some sections also, which I'll get you familiar. So first of all, in the class 1, I'm going to go over penetration testing, some penetration testing techniques, and then the scope of penetration testing. As I said, class 1 is divided into 3 subclasses or parts, you can say. So next is class 2. I will go over what is red team and what is blue team, and what are the different tactics these teams need to have. Then I'll get you familiar with the types of penetration testing and also the pen testing, which is basically the penetration testing strategies. All right. So moving on, class 3 is how to understand what you need to know to hire a penetration tester, and what is the profile of a pen tester. In case you are a pen tester, what your profile should have to successfully get a good position or get hired at the right place which you want to get hired. We'll also go over penetration testing methodology list and roadmap. So moving on, in class 4, I will teach you the guidelines for security testing, basically the ROI on pen testing, then also pen testing, that is penetration testing, versus vulnerability testing, which is also referred to as VT versus PT, right? So then finally, I will go over the different phases of pen testing or penetration testing. Okay, so let's get started with class 1. Get us a cup of coffee, and I want you to pay specific attention to understand the basic concepts which I'm going to go over in this first class. So in this first class, I'm going to talk about penetration testing. I will get you familiar with the concepts. What exactly is penetration testing? So first, let's start with the definition. What is penetration testing? So penetration testing is a software attack which is launched on a computer system that looks for security vulnerabilities and weaknesses. And potentially the outcome of that is once they get access to the computer, they can then now access your features and data. All right? So it's a software attack on a computer system that looks for security vulnerabilities and potentially gain access to all the features and data which is stored in a particular computer or a particular system. Right. So on the other hand, let's talk about penetration testing, which is commonly referred to as pen testing when it comes down to the testing, from the testing standpoint of a computer or a computer system. It could be for a computer system, a network. You can also use penetration testing for your web applications. So all of these penetration testing is used to find what? The vulnerabilities that an attacker can exploit or could exploit. So later in the class, we're also going to talk about going over basically the test and the system architecture to find the different viabilities to check, and also the different vulnerabilities before an attacker could exploit your system. You have to put those checks and measures in place also. So when you talk about penetration testing, so this analysis is carried out from the position of a potential attacker and can involve attacker exploitation of the security vulnerabilities. So penetration testing, or the process of safety, or you can say like a process where you safely are trying or attacking a network from an outside, is what penetration testing is. So as a hacker would do, and that's what they do. So penetration testing, you basically position yourself on the testing front, right? And it is basically a process in which you yourself, as a pen tester, safely attack a network from an outside standpoint, and you kind of mimic a hacker basically, and you then try to see what are the vulnerabilities and try to come up with your own set of rules, and based on which you can attack, and based on which you have to work with as a penetration tester. All right, and so you can say that a penetration testing or a penetration test is a process of actively evaluating companies' information security measures, basically. So your company's IT and company's security measures, you have to evaluate them, right? So that you understand them and so you can perform some tests based on that. So the security measures are actively analyzed for design weaknesses, technical flaws, other vulnerabilities which are there. So once you do a pen test or perform a pen test, the results usually are delivered in a comprehensive report to the executive or the management or the technical audience, which need to have access to that report. So penetration test report may also access the potential impact the organization and the suggestions and the countermeasures to reduce that risk. So that is what it encompasses and it should include. So that's why you're just thinking about how to test a system to find out the vulnerabilities. Once the management organization gets your report, their immediate action is, let's do a priority, let's patch these. Let's patch them immediately if there's some red flags raised around it. So you all must be wondering that why organizations need to have penetration testing, right? I kind of explained to you, you get a little bit of idea, so let me explain a little bit more. So some of the key points that'll help you understand the need of penetration testing is what you need to understand. First is, and I'll say the most important is, that pen testing helps identify the threats facing an organization and the information assets of an organization. Second is, when performing a pen testing or a penetration test, an organization can reduce its IT security related over costs. So these costs are the costs which they could occur if somebody breached or there was a data breach or somebody went into their system. So those costs can be saved by just doing a preemptive penetration test or engaging somebody like you who will be a penetration tester, right? So another important aspect of pen testing is that it provides a better return on IT security investment, which is also referred to as ROSI, R-O-S-I, that is return on IT security investment. And this is by identifying and resolving the vulnerabilities and weaknesses within an organization, all right? So usually organizations need penetration testing in order to gain and maintain some kind of industrial certification or meet the industrial regulation if there is some regulatory or compliance which they need to follow. And a good example would be like if you're trying to maintain your HIPAA standards, the HIPAA, they're the HIPAA standards usually for the medical industry, all right? So in most cases, organizations basically they're required to implement a new information security policy. And this new information security policy or policies and also of course the procedures which are needed that need to be deployed when a new product comes into place in order to bring themselves into the regulatory compliance for things like HIPAA. Okay, another important need or needs I would say for penetration testing can be companies that use it for testing and validating the efficiency of their security protections and controls. So every country have a list of security protections, controls, policies. So this is also very important for companies to have this testing there just to validate that the efficiency is there in their security protections and also in the controls which they have laid out. Also, organizations can focus on high severity vulnerabilities, like basically and emphasize on application level security issues for the development team, for the management team, based on the findings which they get back from a penetration test or a penetration testing which they have done on their system, right? So it's very critical. All right, so another thing is that organizations constantly need to evaluate the efficiency of their network, their security devices, I would say their firewalls, their routers, anything else which is connected to the network, right? And this can truly be done and achieved only by penetration testing, because then you know that my whole network is secure. As a result, the companies can change, update their infrastructure, their routers, their firewalls, do patches, do software updates, hardware updates, whatever needs to be done, redesign the network if it needs to be. So all those can only be unearthed or discovered when you find those vulnerabilities in your network security devices. So that is also a very key thing to remember. All right, guys. So I've gone briefly over penetration testing, the importance to an organization, what you should know about it. So this brings us to the end of Class 1, Part 1. Mind you, I've divided this into 3 parts, the Class 1 itself. So, so far, we've gone over penetration testing. What is penetration testing? Then I briefly explained to you penetration testing and its definition. And I also went over some details why we need to do pen testing, or why organizations need to do pen testing. So I'll see you in class, or part 2 of Class 1. Thank you for joining.